Womp 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 womp. Welcome to some easy low hanging fruit slop content because this is the battle ratings changes video, and the reason I'm putting this out is I have like 5 or 6 different people tagging me in Discord and going, "Hey, look at this," and kind of more or less implying they want to know what I think because I talk about sim a lot and I have opinions about sim. And overall, I think that these changes, I'm going to put them up on the screen for you guys, but overall, right now, kind of lukewarm feelings. I think it's could be a nothing burger. I also think that overall, what is happening is they are solving compression by increasing compression. Basically, they're taking one problem and kind of like shifting it to another direction, which has the potential to cascade into other problems that might create some like downwards pressure on other things that don't need to move down to making other things like hell in the next like the battle ratings changes that are after this one. I'll kind of go over the battle ratings changes. I'll kind of explain what I mean by this. So overall, our top tier gameplay is going to be basically the same. Top tier is not changed at all. J11, SU-27, they're not moving down to 13.0, which is kind of like disappointing because that would give like at least some counterplay to F14, A, B, and F15A like spam. Right now, I think the F15A is probably the best 13.0, followed by like the AIM-9M Gripen and AIM-9M F16, and it kind of creates this environment where that tier hasn't really been like enjoyable for anyone on like the MiG-29 side because the MiG-29 flight model is mid. 2R27ERs really don't counteract like the Ayatollah's 9,000 Fakor 90s from across the map, like on a reliable level. At least that's been my experience. Like, yeah, it can be done. You can multipath the whole time. There are people that can do it. You can find, like, get a bunch of kills in some games if, like, the other guys are clueless. But, I mean, overall, I don't think that's, like, a good dynamic. The F-14s, especially the Iranian ones, should probably have been moved up to 12.7. It's not changing. It's staying there. The thing's, like, selling for, like, $70 in the marketplace. I wonder why. Not surprised. It is moving up in ARB. Probably not enough, but I mean, it is what it is. Defin has a video on that, so I'm not going to go over the ARB changes all that much, but I mean, the Iranian one should move up. There should be like at least some dynamic like gameplay for red side in that like just below top tier bracket, and we're not going to have that for this patch, so maybe next time. Same thing with like the F4 the F4F ice, that's still at top tier, not even moving down to like 13.0. That'd be like fine at 13.0, give it a good day to shine. Not going to happen. And we finally get to like where most of the battle ratings changes are, which is kind of like your mid-upper Mach 2 like jet tier, basically MiG-23 MLD all the way down to F8U2. Everything below F8U2 is not changing. There are no changes to props. There are no changes to low tier, so all the stuff that's been busted for like years is still going to be busted. Nothing to say about that yet. Maybe I'll put some stuff at the end of the video, but right now we'll just kind of start from top, work our way down. So all of the MiG-23 ML series, so the ML, the MLD, the MLA Germany, all of those are moved from 11.7 to 11.3. Now, why is this? Well, I got some background footage. It's Mirage F1C, and the Mirage F1C is one of the most popular premium planes to play in sim right now, which it makes sense because you have reasonably good flight performance, you have a gigaton of flares, and you have Magic 2s, and really the way that you play this plane is you can generally just fly around and shoot like 2 Magic 2s at things. It's kind of like a guaranteed, it can be a guaranteed 2 kills, but reasonably let's just say that 50% of the time one of them misses. It's still a guaranteed 1 kill, 1.5. You basically max out your useful actions, and you're mainly defensively flying against like R60s, and R60s are very flare hungry. The other thing with this BR, this mid-tier BR, is like it's easy to find kills because most of your like rank 7 high-tier premiums kind of sit in this BR, and the way that people play these in sim is they just kind of like fly around completely clueless, completely oblivious, bombing points, doing stuff like that. Like you'll see that in the background footage too, like MiG-23 like sees me, doesn't merge, just like flies straight and then gets mad because I chased him down and shot him with guns. Like I can't dictate the way that people play this tier. And my figuring is that the MiG-23 ML is probably the biggest detriment to kind of all 3 of these planes, because I'm assuming that they lump all of them together now and kind of just treat them as all the same plane. And the flight models on the MLD, MLA, ML, they all did get nerfed, but they got nerfed. They got nerfed really, really hard for like a week, and then that nerf was more or less like 70% of it was undone. So the flight model is not quite what it used to be, where you just kind of like hold back with the wings out and win every dogfight, but it's still pretty damn viable. Moving down, JA-37D moving from 12.0 to 11.7. I don't understand this change. This doesn't make sense to me. I know the J37 flight model did get changed, but I think it's still pretty good. And you still have like 6 AIM-9Ls at this tier, which is like a really, really strong combination for this tier. Like if I had a choice of any kind of missile to take at this tier besides IRCCM missiles, like the AIM-9L would be like the next one in the list. Like turning radar off and just flying around and farming kills, especially on your top tier day when it's like 12.0 down to 11.0. 11.7 and down to 10.7, like that's gonna be silly. And I think when you move it to 11.7, you're gonna overlap with a lot of Phantoms. You're gonna overlap with like probably some of the F-104s, and that's kind of where the issues start to kind of come in. Is you move stuff down, and then you create pressure, and then the next patch will have like F4 or F-104s. Fighting like 9.3s with like good missiles. Same thing, move down here. F4EJ Phantom and EJ80TW. I think these are, I gotta look, I'm gonna pull up the game here. I think these are not Pull Stoppler Phantoms, but let me check here. Go here to preview. And I'm not gonna like stream the game to show this, but I'm doing this. You can hear me like in the background doing this. Not seeing PD on here, so and APQ 120. Let's go to the secondary weapon and see what this thing has, because these are not very. So we got AIM-7Es. They might have like maybe it's like the same radar as the F4J. Maybe it has like the Pulse Doppler velocity radar, but honestly, like I don't really have a problem with these like moving down that much. I'm not really super concerned about them. I haven't really ran into anyone at this tier when I've played it. I'm like, oh my god, that guy's cracked in the EJ80TW. I just think it was probably fine at 11.0, but I don't think it's really going to change a lot at 10.7, except when it fights 9.7s, because 9.7s against these are like MiG-19 is going to get farmed, or if it's fighting 10.7s, it's going to get farmed. But that's also, we got to take into account like the way that people play sim, which is they usually play stuff when it's at the good BR, and they don't play it when it's at the bad BR. So like on 9.7 to 10.7 days, probably not going to touch like the MiG-19. And you probably can't touch it anyways right now, because 10.7, I think you already run into A-10C, or not A-10C, the A-10A, which like 4 and AIM-9Ls, and I think there's a bunch of other stuff that like might have like 2 9Ls. So I think it doesn't make the game worse, but this is a BR where like the game isn't really good. Like as I kind of hinted at, like I'd rather see things go up. I'd rather see like things that are problematic move up, as opposed to having them exert downward pressure on everything else, which I think the Mirage F1C is one of the things that exerts a lot of downwards pressure. Same thing with like the A-10C, but we're going to leave that for a little bit later so we can go top to bottom. J8B moving up from 11.3 to 11.7. I don't think this is like, I don't think this is the B is the good one. I don't think the B is the one. I think there's another J8 that has like the active radar missile. I think that's at like 12.7. And that's like the only like reasonably good one. Otherwise, this plane's like, I think it's fast, but that's about it. Let me look at the thing. J8B 11.3 right now. Secondary weapons, you get the Apsidi. So you get like a like one reasonably decent radar missile. You probably get like a PD radar. It moving up. It's gotta look at the tiers though too, because there's some stuff that like, even though it gets moved up, doesn't really change the matchmaking, because I think it's 12.3 that doesn't have like a day where it's like actually genuinely the top tier. So I don't think this really changes a lot. It might just move it out of range of some stuff that can't defend it. But I think this is one of those planes that like The only reason it's moving up is because people enjoy it that kind of like more or less kind of like know how to play it slash like know how to stat pad in it. Because if you play it at high altitude, it's probably untouchable. It's probably pretty damn strong if you're just like hit and running. But I mean, if more people had it and more people played it, it probably wouldn't move. Moving down to like the final like actual probably good change, the A-10C moving 11.3 to 11.7. Like, yay! Finally, like I was right. The stats don't lie. I have like 300 and some odd kills in this thing. This thing at its BR 11.3 is absolutely busted, absolutely disgusting. At 11.7, it's still going to be disgusting on 3 out of 4 days. On one day of the rotation, it will fight 12.7s, and it'll be supported by the Iranian Tomcat and the regular Tomcat. And really, the only thing at like that 12.7 tier that it's going to fight is the like Mirage 2000, the CS4, CS5, whatever it is. Aside from that, like the plane's still going to be really strong on the up tier days. Honestly, I think the plane can move up to 12.0 and it would be fine. And moving it to 12.0 would mean that it'd have 2 days where it's like fighting things that are hard and have 2 days where it's fighting things that are like free kills. Right now, three days of freebies and 1 day will not be a freebie, which is a 25% improvement, and it moves it out of range of some of the stuff that has like 3 pops of flares. Also, the stuff with like not 3 pops but 6 pops of flares is moving down. For Canard moving from 11.0 to 11.3. I don't have a problem with that. Stuff moving up is usually generally like less bad than stuff moving down. See here, F4S1. Once again, don't really have a problem with this moving up. Shooting AIM-9Ls at like 10.0s is kind of like cringe, but like this plane, it's by itself, I don't think was all that great. But I mean, understandable. Not really. I don't think it's going to move the needle that much. It's still going to be just basically a Harrier with 9Ls and like the heavier shitty flight model. So probably could have stayed the same. Probably not going to like move the needle all that much. AV8B North America, that's the premium one, the brand new one that just came out. This one moving to 11.7 is entirely predictable because if you've been into any 11.3 game, you'll notice they just kind of like fly around, drop JDAMs, and they maximize the useful actions reward. There's even a whole entire guide on how to use it to kind of cheese your reward system of like basically dogleg to the side, fly to the other side of the map, bomb the airfield objectives, or not the objectives, the air defense because it respawns, and then fly back to base, and you do that once every 15 minutes. Congratulations, you have maximized your grind of the premium plane and sim. Then we move down to some stuff that this is where I start going. Okay. I understand this. I understand why these planes are moving down, but I don't think that they should be moving down. Like all of the 21s moving from 11.3 to 11.0 has the potential to create downwards pressure on all of the F-104s. And the F-104s did get changed too. They got kind of shit nerfed out of them as far as like energy retention goes, but the F-104G in sim is at 10.7. Same with the F-104S, and both of these planes I think have like reasonably good missiles. AIM-9Js are okay for this tier, and if they're fighting MiG-21 BIS on most of the days of the week, I think the 21 BIS is basically just as fast, maybe even faster than them, that we might be seeing F-104s move down into BRs that we don't want to see them at in like another patch. Same thing with like some of the tornadoes and stuff like that, where we're going to move 9L slingers down even further. Stuff that can't like fight back, and stuff that like shouldn't fight like subsonic planes and shouldn't fight stuff without flares. I see that as being kind of like one of the ultimate detriments to the thing. Same thing, J35XS, it moving down. I care a little bit less about this than the 21 because the XS is one of those planes with it's got 12 countermeasures, but they're double pops, and it's got 9Ls and it's got a good flight model. Once again, like in fighting 10.0s, like there's some stuff at 10.0 I think that doesn't have flares, but like also like not that big of a deal as it is in ARB. because you can just not fly that crap. So maybe it has like goes from having 0 days a week that it's good to having 1 to 2 days a week where it's good with 1 day where it's absolutely busted. MiG-23s again, we're back to MiG-23s. These are the 6 pops, and they're moving down, and not surprising. Not like super enthusiastic about that because I think I want to say they still have the R23R and R23Ts. I'm gonna look here. I gotta pull this up and look at secondary weapons. And they do have I think they have the same, like, pretty decent radars, but let me double check that before, because I might be capping. Yeah, R23Ts and R60Ms. Like, once again, we're solving compression by compressing, which is silly. Finally get to stuff that I have opinions about. MiG-21MF, going from 11.0 down to 10.7. This isn't really surprising. It makes sense if you're going to move the 21s down, you got to move these down because these are worse than the BIS. So understandable. Same thing, like literally the same thing. Like we're making a compressed zone from 9.7 to 10.7 to solve like IRCCM missile slingers. Like you could just move the IRCCM missile slingers up and probably leave everything else the same and it'd probably be okay. And then we get to like 3 that like are really dumb. Like the F-4F early, the F-4E moving from 11.0 to 10.7. That's silly because the F-4C is at also 10.7. So you have like a flareless Phantom with bad missiles, and then you're moving this one into the same BR range. At least that's what I think. Let me double check this because I might be wrong, and maybe the F-4C is actually lower. No, it's 10.7. So we're gonna move all this stuff down, compress the shit out of it. It's gonna be dog shit. Kernass, like the Kernass is literally an F4E with Python something or others, and I think it has A9G. So it's literally just better than the F4E, and it can carry 6 of them as well. So it can carry 6, or it can carry the conventional loadout of 4+4 with the other missiles. So like the Kernass 2000 moving down, like the plane's gonna be like 10.7 days are going to be Kernass 2000 days now, and fighting the Kernass 2000 with like your like flareless like piece of crap, like, or like just a piece of crap plane at 10.7, like it's going to be not very great. Then we move down, F5A, F5C, no changes there. F111 moving from 10.7 to 10.3 makes absolutely no sense to me. Because the plane like right now is like already good. Like this one, like the most popular planes to just like farm points in. Moving it to 10.3, like 9.3 to 10.3 days are just free days for F111s to ruin the entire matchmaker by farming. Not a good change. And like why did he do this? Why are you compounding problems? A5C moving from 10.3 to 10.7. I mean, I guess, because then it doesn't fight 9.3s, but we're moving it to 10.7, which is going to fight F4Es, all the stuff that I was just complaining about. I don't understand that. It's fine. Like, I don't really care that much about like people who buy a premium to go out in the sim and try like farming it. It could have been 10.3, but it could also be 10.7 if none of the other stuff got moved down. So, like, this is a change that's probably not great in context of all of the other changes. F8U2, finally we get to the one that like absolutely baffles the like ever living shit out of me, because in RB it's moving up. It's moving from 10.0 to 10.3, because at 10.0 it's like, that's just farming. This plane at 10.3 in the current 10.3 bracket is one of the best, if not the best 10.3 that you could fly, and they're moving it down to 10.0. To me, that's silly. That's ridiculous. That means that your 9.7 planes, like MiG-19, if you're gonna fly MiG-19, it is, if you don't use rocket flares, like use rocket pods as flares, like it is kind of Jover for you. It is, oof. Because like the F8U is probably one of the best American flight models, probably one of the best ones for dogfighting as well, if you understand kind of like how to use it, because it has like pretty good turn rate, pretty good instantaneous turn rate. It has rail guns, reasonably, like, I think it's like one of the radars that's like pretty, like, as far as like a search radar is pretty decent. Has like the A scope and the B scope and the C scope and the D scope. Like, this thing doesn't need to be 10.0, but like, just if you're at 9.0 or 9.7, get fucked. And this is gonna create downwards pressure on planes that like can't cope with it, like the T2s, the T2 earlies, kind of like the stuff that was like early supersonic stuff that doesn't have flares is now going to find itself fighting F8U2 more often, find itself fighting F4 Phantom more often. And same thing with like the F-104s. I want to just go over the F-104s real quick, kind of look at what the BRs are and kind of talk about these, because with the flight model changes where the F-104 is like a 7G plane now and not like a 14G instantaneous turn rate AOA monster and can't really pull in as hard, I already see these going down. So let's kind of look at what we got here. We're going to go to Japan first, because I think the Japanese 104J is one of the weird ones where it doesn't have countermeasures, but it does get up to 6 AIM-9Ps. So this plane moving from 10.0 down to 9.7 would be really, really bad. It moving even further down to, like, say, 9.3 in a couple of patches would be really, 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 really bad, because then you're just shooting, like, it's 6 free kills at that point. And it's not like the 104s are all that, like, hard to fly against subsonic planes, because, like, it's very intuitive. Like, you're a dart, you fly fast, you fly away, you're good to go. And because of the flight model changes, you're even less viable in a maneuvering fight. It means that, like, that, like, 9.3 BR range, your 10.0, 9.7 BR range can get really bad. Moving to the US F-104s, and I've fought against these a little bit recently in, like, CL-13 Mark 6. If these get downwards pressured, they would go from 9.7 down to 9.3. That's potential. They're not... Those planes rely on AIM-9Bs to get kills and guns, which them moving down is... I think that's just going to happen regardless. Or people are just not going to play them on days that they're bad. So, not really a big deal. I think the 104Gs are something I haven't really kept up on. I think the 104Gs... They get 9Js now, and they have flares, and these planes moving down a BR step from, say, like, currently 104G for Germany is 10 point... I'm going to say 10.7. Make sure I got my screen up here. 10.7. This being the same battle rating as the F4F, the F4E, the F4... the Israeli one, the Kurnas. This is going to get moved down. This will get moved down to 10.3 in a patch. So that'll be fun to be fighting this with, like, Sabres or MiG-19s, which is, it's already like the current thing, but that means the MiG-19 potentially going to get moved down. Same thing with, like, T2s, a lot of other stuff. And we go over to Japan. I think we already went through Japan. We'll go to Italy, because Italy has a lot of F-104s that are going to be suffering wheels. F-104S. This is... I think the 104S is the one that gets 9Ps, 9Js. It can take app sides. And one of these gets, like, the pull stopper radar, the good radar. And I think it's the ASA. But let me look at the preview here and see what we got for EOL radar. So we got IFF, BVR, ACM, SAR H. This one moving down, it's gonna happen. So we're gonna solve compression with more compression. Tornadoes, the IDS is probably gonna get moved down. Some of these other things will probably get some downwards pressure from stuff that's been moved into the BR range that they can't really cope with, because 11.3 tornado versus the MiG-23, it might be rough. It might be okay. It depends how people, like, play them too. Like, if it's just being used as a bomb slinger, it'll be fine. But overall, right now, I'm gonna reiterate: downwards pressure is gonna happen. This patch gonna be kind of more or less the same, but you're gonna get days where, like, some stuff is even more broken than it used to be. For the future, in the future, like just move the IRCCM missile slingers up. Like the Mirage F-1C would be fine at 12.0 because it would just put it on par with F4J, like the good pulse Doppler Phantoms that are not the EJ Kai. The EJ Kai, I think, still sits at a BR where it basically fights F-15 top tier stuff. I think it's still at 12.7. No, it's at 12.3, but 12.3 does not get a day where it's like the toppest tier. So it's always in the 12.7 bracket, so it might as well be 12.7. So overall, right now, lukewarm changes. The other thing I'm really disappointed on, too, is like we are not seeing any changes at prop tier. We're not seeing any changes below 10.3 or 10.0. So we're still going to have stuff like the Ariat at 9.0 is going to run amok. Key 84 at 5.0, still going to run amok. XP 55 all the way down at 3.0, still going to run amok if you use it. A lot of stuff, like all the stuff that like could be changed at lower tiers, not changing at all. Stuff at this high tier that has been populated by like people grinding and more or less kind of like tanking the stats on planes by just like not knowing the game mode is going to... We're solving compression with more compression. That's all I got to say. That's really is the video. We got compression, and we're solving compression with more compression. That's it. That's the video.